Hello, property nomads. Hope you're well. Great news if you are developing or thinking of getting into property development, and that is that Michael Gove is looking at relaxing planning rules to create more homes in city centres. It's an article off the BBC. Go through the article briefly. It gives away a little bit of information, but not too much. But the key thing to take away from this podcast episode is that there will be more opportunity moving forwards in the development sphere. So if it's something you're looking at getting into, then now might be a good time to do that. So Michael Gove is to relax planning rules in England in an effort to create more homes in the hearts of our cities. It basically says he wants to make it easier to convert empty retail premises and betting shops into flats and houses. Perfectly understandable with the way that commercial property is at the moment and what's coming down the line. There's probably going to be a lot more commercial property available. And if people, investors, developers like yourselves, ourselves, can pop in and make it easy to convert into flats, houses, whatever it might be, then that makes our life easier. It also means that we can generate and build, create new homes, because supply is much lower than demand. So therefore, the ball works in our favour. Of course, this plan has got its critics. People saying conversions are often poor quality. Depends on the developer, depends on what the regulations are at the time. So yes, I'm sure that anyone that's bought a new build or has bought a property that's been converted, the quality can vary. I think that's down to developers, the people that are used in construction. I'll tell you a story. I won't mention any names or any areas because that's not fair. But I was doing an energy performance certificate for a client the other day, and they do a lot of building site work. And he was mentioning about a company who were building a big set of new builds, and they had done everything properly for the first couple of builds to meet all the acoustic tests, etc. And then basically didn't do any of the acoustic testing or any of the things needed to make the new builds acoustic friendly from there on, because the inspector had turned up, inspected the first couple, was happy with that, and the builders, construction people, then didn't want to do any acoustic work to the other new dwellings purely because it would cost too much cash. So that's just gives you an idea of how the system can be gamed. It's not right, it's not fair. But that's just, again, that's a story that I've heard firsthand. And yeah, so it gives you an idea of how things can vary in quality. It depends on who is inspecting stuff, but also who's building it and where they're building it, etc., etc. BBC just goes on in the article, criticises government for having watered down housing plans and that sort of stuff. Again, I don't think this government's tarnished themselves. So the government has tarnished themselves quite a lot. This all screams of a government that just hasn't had a plan. Unfortunately, the Conservatives have cocked everything up, I think, royally in the last 10 years or so. Hence why I think we're going to have a Labour government in 2025. Yeah, Labour come out fighting, saying it's take some serious brass neck for the Tories to make yet more promises when the housing crisis has gone from bad to worse on their watch. Yeah, to an extent that's true, but as we've delved on into the podcast before, local councils, local planning people really don't help the cause either. Mr. Gove said the government would unequivocally, unapologetically, and intensively concentrate our biggest efforts in the hearts of our cities. Yeah, perfectly understandable. Absolutely, more urban living is fine. They want to create buzzy urban areas. I do like that phrase. And would it help the UK economy? Yeah, absolutely. The more city centre living we've got, the more houses that we've got that can be built, the better. again, it helps to match that supply and demand imbalance. As we've said, in fact, we'll go through on the next episode, the supply and demand imbalance, UK economics 101. That's what we'll go through in the next episode. It's a very generic article. All we know is that they want to make it easier to convert shops, takeaways, and betting shops into homes. Have to remember that under, I think it was MA class, that planning rules have been relaxed a couple of years ago on certain aspects of development, and I think this is just going to help push it a bit more to encompass a more generic range of commercial property to be converted. And what I find interesting is local government association here has warned that offices, shops, and bars are not always suitable for housing and could result in creation of poor quality homes. Again, this is the tip of the iceberg in terms of where local councils and other people just like to get in the way of things and say no to this, say no to that, stop things getting built, stop this happening, stop this happening. And then we wonder why we have housing issues, because Westminster is saying, okay, A, B, and C, this is what we need to do, let's crack on and do it. You get down to local level, and local level turns around and says, no, not happening, not on our watch, unacceptable because of A, B, and C. So you get Westminster saying, yep, green light, this is great. And then you get all the local councils saying, no, red light, not happening. So then you're stuck in this sort of quandary in the quagmire in the middle, going, well, what do you do? Because I've got someone saying, yes, green light, and then I've got someone on the other side saying, not happening. And that can lead to all sorts of havoc, as it has done. And Mr. Gove also wants to ease rules on building extensions to commercial buildings and repurposing agricultural buildings. Also wants to change a lot of rules and regulations around loft conversions. So might not be overly useful if you're a property developer, but certainly if you own your own home and you want to go into the loft space, that's apparently going to become a lot easier. Again, on the actual detail as such, there's not a lot to report back at the moment, but the key thing for this podcast is that there are more changes coming ahead. That does mean more opportunity for you and I, which is fantastic. He's going to face criticism for he's going to create criticism regardless. Conservative MP for South Cambridgeshire, Anthony Brown, tweeted by saying, I will do everything I can to stop the government's nonsense plans to impose mass house building on Cambridge, where all major developments are now blocked by the Environment Agency because we have quite literally run out of water. I would imagine that Anglian Water in that area are probably are pitting the water away, just like most other water companies. That might be a reason why. And again, this is one of those things where government says, yeah, let's crack on and do this. And even one of their own constituents at this time, Mr. Brown, assuming you're a Mr. for South Cambridgeshire, is opposing it because the Environment Agency is saying no more house building. And yeah, this podcast isn't about that, but you can tell the lunacy of what we have to deal with here in the UK. In a nutshell, we've got to work together. We have to work together to create more housing. You're not going to make everyone happy by doing it, but the supply of housing in this country is much shorter than demand. We'll go through that in the next episode. It is what it is. There's a lot that can be done. It involves working together, which in the 21st century seems to be almost impossible because people love throwing their toys out the pram at any available opportunity. All I can say to you is thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And if you're getting into the development world, the development sphere, then opportunities will be coming up. There's always opportunities available. It's just about identifying them, working with them, and then surrounding yourself with a very, very good team and moving forwards. As always, thank you for following the podcast. Please like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast with others, and catch up with us on our newsletter. Head to our website to do that. And if you're after development funding for anything, then drop me an email, rob@tpmpodcast.com. We can point you in the right direction. We'll see you in the next video.